All right, so tonight we're going to talk about DOS, and that's denial of service. We're going to get into another topic called distributed denial of service, and these are both very interesting. And for your test, you will definitely need to know different types of DOS. Uh, but essentially, what specifically can lead to a denial of service? Really, there's a lot of different things that can. Um, Most of the time they are intentional, but some of the time they are unintentional. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Um, but we'll go into how do they work and what are some of the symptoms, and then we'll go into a little demo here with this product called HPing 3 that I have. I'll show you how to do a DDoS, or at least a DOS onto somebody's uh, machine or a target that you're looking to take over or just bring down, and we'll go through that. Um, so there's a lot of times we see the distributed denial of service attacks um, referenced in line with botnets and zombies, and those are the words that if you aren't already familiar with, you need to be, because you will see those on your exam. And usually the ICQ or IRC is the medium of choice for attackers to be able to try to communicate with these bots as they go through and uh, pick on a target or get ready to attack a target. A whole bunch of different types of attacks that are available out there. Um, One of them is this thing called a bandwidth attack. If you have a pipe, and I know you guys love my drawing, so uh, I'll go through and just draw here. But if I have a pipe here, and for my pipe, I start putting a whole bunch of stuff inside one end, and I expect it to come out the other end. But this term right here, this bandwidth, uh, specifically, uh, we're interested in uh, putting too much on this side right here, where essentially it leads to a queuing mechanism, and then all of a sudden it just totally makes the entire bandwidth unavailable. Um, a lot of times you see that when people are trying to access a resource at the same time, um, and usually you'll see the little spinner out there that, or it says loading, or something like that. Usually for a bandwidth attack. Um, Service request floods are another topic that we're going to talk about tonight. And then these guys down here are um, really, I think, some of the ones that are more interesting here, the SYN flood and ICMP. So the SYN flood is essentially, you remember the TCP three-way handshake, and I'm going to use uh, my SYNAC, and then ACK, right? So with the TCP three-way handshake, that's how it happens. It's got a SYN, a SYNAC, and an ACK, right? SYN, SYNAC. So synchronize, acknowledge, and then acknowledge. That's how it works. All right. Well, with this, the SYN flooding, um, it takes advantage of the three-way handshake by just submitting a ton of SYNs and never completes the three-way handshake. So each one of these would be a SYN, and then this guy over this target over on the other side here, like let's say we had a little uh, computer over here. This guy, every time he gets a SYN come in, he's coming back. He's saying SYNAC, 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 and then for each one of these, it never sends back the final ACK. and it just leaves all these open connections without actually completing the three-way handshake, and it leads to a denial of service attack. So usually that's what we see for SYNFlood. For the ICMP, this is usually similar to what's called a Smurf attack, and that's something that we'll definitely be seeing on the exam, a Smurf attack. And essentially, you spoof the target's IP address, and so if we have a little box here that represents the target, and then here's your attacker over here. What the attacker does is he sends out an ICMP to the broadcast address. And if you recall, the broadcast address is the 255 as the final octet. And then what happens is the broadcast address sends it out to everybody on the network. He'll say, hey, I got a ping command or an ICMP from this node. Can you reply back to him, everybody on the network? And then everybody on the network at one time starts sending it back over to the one target machine that you spoof the IP address for. And usually that's what we see for a ICMP flood attack. So keep that in mind whenever you're going through and doing this. Any questions about that before we move on?